Oh boy, that's crooked. That's better. Evening, folks. How's everybody doing? We're down here at in Antarctica at Rothera Research Station, Echo Golf Alpha Romeo. This is part of the Rothera and Beyond scenery from Aerosoft. Comes complete with penguins and what looks like very, very cold weather, which fortunately we don't have to actually experience. It's cold enough as it is where we are, I'm sure. For some of us anyway. More so than others. So we got a couple hours. We're going to cruise around the Larsen ice shelf. Look at this in the back. I don't know. You can see it just off to the side there. We can stick our head up. There's actually a ship, like a research vessel, that is going to keep driving back and forth there. This is a lovely little airport. It's got all kinds of little interactive things going on. There's vehicles, and not just like regular buses, but, you know, equipped with skis and tracks and stuff driving around. There are little groups of penguins sitting around. Very small airfield, like a little icy runway. And it's quite nice. And obviously, as you can see behind us, the gate opens up to the hangar. I thought I said it. Yeah, for 1:15 a.m. Okay, well, that's actually kind of neat because it is like the middle of the night, but we still have some light here. I do want to make it a little bit earlier in the day, though. A little bit later in the day, rather. So we have a bit more actual sunshine. That looks nicer. We'll keep it on clear skies because we're going sightseeing in the Twin Otter, also by Aerosoft, in the British Antarctic Survey livery, which is very fitting, and it comes with the aircraft stock. Don't really have a very set destination. I do have a flight plan, but it's basically a straight 200 nautical miles shot to the south, which is not really what's important here. What's important here is I want to go sightseeing a little bit. So let's get inside the aircraft. Let's fix my camera. There we go. Look at this beauty. If it looks like it will be a noisy flight, that is indeed going to be the case. Though they did fix some things to make it a little bit better audio-wise. There were some really annoying audio issues with this when it first launched. According to reviews, I actually bought it when it first came out, but I didn't really get a chance to fly it. I've only flown it once, and that was yesterday. So we'll learn as we go. The one thing that I do know is it has some crazy lights up at the top here that are extremely difficult to reach without craning my head like crazy. So I'm actually going to use the camera presets. This is where all of our lights and a lot of our anti-ice stuff is up here, which is kind of important for what we're doing. Though, you know, clear skies, we probably don't need any anti-ice. So the first thing that actually took me a little while to figure out is, you can see these are flight controls that are locked when the airplane is cold and dark. And it's not some electronic toggle. Nope, it's a physical lock. This reminds me a lot of those, the club for the car you can get for your wheel. Same idea here. And it took me a while to figure out how to actually remove that. You actually just click down at the foot there to remove it, but we'll do that in a second. I feel like I thought the doors were also, yeah, they can be opened. What does that sound? Well, that's strange. Just go head out the window. You can see we've got the skis equipped on our wheels, which is good because we might want to land somewhere on the snow. I don't know. I have no idea what the airfield's going to be like where we're landing. Well, this sounds like ships. There's a lot going on out here. So we're sitting at cold and dark, probably very cold, not so dark, thankfully. I love that there's actually another one of these sitting right there, and somebody's... Looks like they're just doing their walk around. There's a couple of penguins over there, just waddling around. And I love that that's actually a thing. I mean, in a game that is a flight simulator where you can fly over 45,000 feet all around the world, and yet still you can have a little group of penguins waddling around next to a runway in Antarctica. That's pretty cool. So we'll go see what we can find here. Let's I probably should shut this door again. As nice as that sound is, it is rather loud, and it's going to get louder when we start up these twin turboprops, which are nice. So let's get rid of these flight controls. There we go. First thing done, and we'll start by just getting some power into the aircraft here. So we will turn on the battery and then start up the DC master. Now we have lights, which means I can go up to the top, turn on some anti-collision lights, and we'll turn on the position lights as well. We'll do the other lights later. What is up here? These are interior lights, reading entrance lights, emergency. We should probably arm the emergency lighting. We'll leave that on dim. Some testings, some tests. Okay, we don't need to worry about those, I don't think. What was that there? Hold on, there was a nice placard here. Airspeeds, limitations, this is good to know. It's not, okay. Best climb angle, 69 knots. Minimum control speed, 66k. Best rate, 103. Okay, so that's good to know. Sort of our basically we should be climbing at about 100 because we don't really care too much. Flaps extended limits, flaps 10 at 105. It's good to know as well. Okay. So, what I do know about how to get this thing started, and I have started it up a couple times. We'll get the aux boost pumps on, and I need to get over here because for some reason I cannot actually make, well, I don't need to do this yet, but for some reason I could not bind the fuel throttles to my physical levers, which is a real shame. So, but we will go start the right engine first. And let's give it some fuel. And if I stick my head over there, that looks like a spinning engine to the human eye. And looking at this, things are sort of looking good there in the green. Starter should have flipped back to the center. It has. We'll go start up the left engine. And there we go. The sun is coming right over the hill in front of us there. That's beautiful. Let's see, what is our current altimeter here? It's probably just going to be, well, it's clear sky, so it'll just be 299 or 2, which it is set for. We can change it, but we'll leave it alone. Yep. We do have an autopilot. Fairly basic autopilot, but it's going to let us do sort of what we want to do. I can dial in an altitude of 5,000 feet just to give us something to shoot for. And we can switch our GPS here. So this is the, I believe it's the GTN 350 or 530, one of the two, or maybe it's both actually, because it has two devices here. We're going to set this to the GPS course, which is the one that I've loaded in. It's basically just a straight line. Can I? Let's see. Am I going to have any luck with any of my buttons here? Probably not. That's just changing the actual functionality. I wanted to just, all I want to do is zoom out a bit. Well, by the way, we can look around the back a bit. We've got a big crate here of something. Something laboratories. Handle with care. Good to know. Quite detailed in the back here. Not that I want to use this exit, but I wasn't sure if it was usable, maybe. Alright, well, we're not going to worry too much about the autopilot. The fact is, it is there. We can use it if we need to. We might at some point, just so we can go outside the airplane and have a look around. What we have forgotten is we need to turn on our generators here now, the ones that are driven by the engine. We might as well turn on the pitot heat and the taxi light. And since we are going to take off shortly, I will also go ahead and turn on the landing lights. We don't have a lot of like runway room here to maneuver, so I don't think we're going to get in the way of any other airplanes. Reset props. Okay, just because they're not at full forward. Flight controls seem to be working. So we are going to take off. We're going to take off in that direction to our right. And I think we'll just fly like a little loop around. There's the ship that was over on the other side, so it seems to be circling sort of our general position here. I've got the little mini map from little nav map in the bottom left. It's not super detailed down here in Antarctica, but you should be able to make out, you know, sort of roughly where we are. Oh, it's such a cool view. All right, let's go taxi on down there to that end and see how we make out. We'll get the park and brake off. Give it a little bit of throttle to get moving. It's a bit more throttle than I thought it would. Okay. So we'll go taxi to the end of this edge of the runway here, and then we'll turn around and take off. See if we can turn around here without driving into the frigid, icy cold water. Some of these barrels seem to be floating in the air a little bit. Not barrels, but some lights probably. Oh no, they're not. I take that back. They're on very skinny little legs. Good enough. Alright, let's set the parking brake real quick. Have another look around here. It is loud outside of this airplane. But that is quite a nice view, though. So, we're going to take off. What's our current heading here? Directly due south. Okay, so that actually is the direction we're going to be flying into. But we'll probably still do a little loop before we actually get on our course. Fly around this research station. We'll just kind of enjoy the scenery for a bit, and then we'll head out. So, let's get the parking brake released. We're good to go, I think. Oh no, we should have a little bit of flaps here just to help us take off because it's not a very long runway. And where are we actually looking for our speed? Right there, airspeed. We've got our vertical speed down there. I'm going to try to leave the controls up here on the screen, even though they get in the way a little bit, but they do look so cool. So let's give it a whirl. And practically takes off on its own. And we'll do a right-hand turn over this here. We will bring back the prop to about 80. Which is actually going to make our make it a lot less noisy in here. Bring back the torque as well, because we don't really need that much speed. We're not climbing hard, and we'll flaps all the way up. So that's where we just came from there. There's the ship down there. We're already quite high up. 1700 feet. There's a little research station. We're fine. I mean, we're close, but we're fine. There's that ship, that vessel. That's about what I wanted. The prop RPM at 80, the throttle's at 40. And we've got our flight plan here. We're way off track. We should be heading due south. Let's go make some adjustments here then. Just gonna turn our game sounds down a little bit here, just because it's a bit loud, I think. So once again, there's research station we just left. We'll be heading straight down here. Well, I think we're actually going to try to hug the coastline a little bit more, which is actually on that side. Pretty good speed here, 120 knots. She wants to go faster still. You can actually see down here this this light green needle there that we're starting at. That's our GPS path. So that line is just off to our right. It's close enough. It's not like there's a lot of things in our way here. We can just, as long as we're going roughly in the right direction, I think we're good. I'm just at 4,000 feet here. I'm just going to see what happens. I'm just basically letting go of the throttle and see if I can trim out the aircraft a little bit. It's our altitude alert. That means we're within 1,000 feet of where I said I wanted to be. This is quite the view right here. Look how close that propeller is to the window. This is also a really great screenshot. Alright, I'm just going to engage the autopilot for the altitude hold here, just so that we can basically stay at 5,000 feet, so I don't have to worry about that. I think I still have roll control, though. We can also just use this to control our heading here if we want to. So we've got altitude and heading enabled. You can see all these buttons flashing up every time that, like, this is sort of the more modern display. Heading, altitude 5,000. Then you have this here with the older style 5,000 altitude indicator, heading and altitude highlighted, and the trims keeps this little alert button keeps going off every time the trim is in motion, which is kind of cool. This here is our other sort of alert panel. Everything is dark and off, so that's good. And everything's pretty much normal. Now, if I switch over to nav mode, which I just did, it's going to swing us over to the right just a little bit to get us on that line. And I say a little bit, it's actually leaning us pretty hard. But I actually kind of want to fly along that the coastline there. Gives it a little bit more to look at than just frozen ocean here. So I'm going to go back to heading mode. And start flying over towards the coastline a little bit. Go ahead and turn that taxi light off. That gives you some indication of how hard the autopilot has to work to level the aircraft perfectly. Trim is constantly going up, down, constantly adjusting. Our prop is just around 80. Yeah, everything's in the green. Antarctica is absolutely massive. Like when I was putting together this, even this little flight and thinking about, okay, well, we have 2 hours to do this. It's barely scratching the surface. There's so many cool places down here that I've actually added. I installed a scenery airport add-on for Antarctica from flightsim.to that adds a whole bunch of little landing strips, small facilities, research bases, all kinds of stuff. But they're spread out so far. It would take hours to fly through them all, which is awesome. You can spend a lot of time doing that, but so our target is actually only, I think it's an hour and 20 minutes away. That's probably perfect, actually. Maybe we will save the flight. I have another flight for Nepal where we can fly around Mount Everest, which I've done once before. Not for Shacknews, but I've done it once myself, and it's absolutely stunning. Maybe we'll do that either next week or the week following, something like that, at some point in the future. I think we'll probably just stick to Antarctica today. See if we can even find this little airport. Couple of map tools and other things that I used that are not even aware of it. It's so small. I think it was just added as an add-on airport by Aerosoft here, so we shall see. Eventually, in about an hour and a half, we're going to land somewhere, hopefully on solid ground. I love flying into the sunrise in this game. It's so beautiful. Actually flies really stable. The autopilot's pretty good. It flies quite fast. It's a bit noisy, but I believe apparently that is what they are like in real life. There's a small airline here in Vancouver where I live called Harbour Air. They fly float planes mostly out of Vancouver Harbor, as the name implies, and to various small places, to the island, and to lots of little places that they service with their float planes. Never flown them, but maybe one of these days I will. But they have a couple of Twin Otters of this kind, and I've actually painted a livery for one of them, so I'll have to try that at some point. The float plane variant of this is very cool too. Alright, we're getting a bit closer now to the shoreline, so we're going to adjust our course a little bit more due south. Let's go to about let's make it 160. Because we're going to want to fly like parallel to the coastline here, so we get some nice views of the sunrise. I want to see again if I can find the range. There we go. I think is that it? You would think. Yep, there we go. Well, we're getting somewhere. So we've got quite a long ways to go, and we're going to follow basically our track. We're just flying a little further due east for the nicer views. Tweak that heading just a wee bit. I actually quite, you know what, I think maybe next week we're going to fly the DC-6. I haven't flown that in ages. I need to get used to that again. I do quite like these sort of more manual airplanes. Yes, I'm still flying it in autopilot right now, but there's a lot more going on. There's something about having that engine sound too that's really nice. There are definitely some higher mountains over there, so we get further down there. I think our destination is just right by the ocean, which makes sense. I mean, most places around here, but if not, we'll just have to pay a little bit of attention to the altitudes. Little bits of ice floating around. Now, what does this OBS dial here do? That lets us... Okay, so we can... I have no idea what heading the runway is that we're going to land in. We're going to check all that out at the end, but we'll see if we can maybe dial in the OBS for that or something. Something to help us land later? Because we're not going to be set up for any sort of automatic approach. Not at this little tiny strip that we're landing at, I don't think. Maximum operating at sea level to 6,700 is 170 knots. Yeah, we're flying at like 145. And according to little nav map, if I look over to my other screen there, looks like our ground speed is 155 knots. We have in the back, so we can actually look in the back here. Okay, so that is just like a very narrow crate. Some sort of, for some laboratory, some component, A12. Clearly just kitted out for delivering, let's call it some lab equipment. Probably a couple of laptops, bunch of microscopes, lots of glass components, so we'll have to make sure that when we do land, we try to land as smoothly as possible so that stuff does not get shaken around, so we don't leave the British Antarctic Survey with a bill to pay. What else do we have over here? Let's have a look around. There's a bunch of test buttons. Fire bell, auto feather test, prop governor test, beta range test, and a power lever test. Obviously, we got the parking brake down here. Lots of... there's some radio stuff here for ADF, nav, VHF. Fan controls, ram air. This must be some backup gauges or something like that. Ski position. Oh, okay. So, interesting. Okay, so right now we have the ski version. The skis are in the up position. Depending on our destination runway, we'll have to see if we need skis or not. Might be kind of cool, though. I'm not sure how effective, if at all, the brakes will be if we use skis. So we would potentially only be able to stop with the reverse propeller, reverse thrust, which we do have up here. It does go into reverse, and I have tested that before, so that should technically work. Maybe we'll give that a try, depending on what the state of our destination runway is like. So there's the radio flight data recorder, battery temperature gauge. And these are, of course, all of our engine-related gauges right here. And then the co-pilot's first officer's gauges. It's very detailed. I quite like flying the CRJ from Aerosoft. It's a very nice plane to fly, especially when you're hand flying it. Unfortunately, part of that is required because the autopilot is a little bit wonky. But I'll be honest with you, there's only a handful of planes in the simulator where the autopilot is not wonky, and that is mostly just anything that's got the NXI, which is free in the marketplace from Working Title. That replaces sort of the Garmin G1000 in a lot of stock planes, as well as additional planes, and that's a very solid autopilot system. The CJ4 autopilot is very good, and the fly-by-wire A32NX autopilot is also quite good. Most of the stock ones can be hit and miss. There's frequent issues with them, unfortunately. JT Miller with a hat trick for the Canucks through 2 periods. Nice, good for him. What do we got here? Is this a reading lamp, I'm assuming? Can I turn this on? It is either not working or it is just too bright to see any if... Oh, it's... Wait a... Yeah, I can't actually tell. Probably shouldn't mess with these breakers, though they all look to be non-functional, inoperative, which is probably a good thing. Having said that, though, another great third-party airplane, the Quest Kodiak 100 Series 2 from... I've forgotten their name. It's SWS. SimWorks Studios, I think. Very good plane. Fully functional breakers. Definitely should fly that. Maybe I'll fly that next week to Nepal. Get into that airplane. Different kind of airplane, but probably one of the best out there at the moment. It's very good. Not as easy to fly, though, to be honest. It is much more temperamental than even this. The Twin Otter flies quite smooth by hand. I do love the full degrees of freedom with the track IR. Just to be able to move forward in the cockpit. I've been flying a lot lately in VR, and if it was easier and better looking to stream it, I would do all my streams in VR as well, because it is such an incredible experience that flying this in pancake mode in a 2D screen is just it's not the same. What else do we have here? So we've got the trim in motion, glide slope armed, nav armed, glide slope captured, nav captured. Such a high level of detail in the textures too, it's quite amazing. Sure looks very nice. Some windshield wiper controls up here. What else do we have up at the top? Pilot radios, wing fuel control, stabilizer, de-ice, and all the other prop de-ice, intake anti-ice, wing inspection light, de-icer boots. This plane does have apparently a lot of anti-ice functionality, because it is frequently flown in situations like this where it is just very cold. I mean, we have it on a clear sky, so there should be no moisture in the air, so we don't really have to worry about it. But it is flown in all sorts of inclement weather conditions. Axeman, let me check. No, the left engine seems okay. It looks fine to me. Let me stick my head out the window and get closer. It's still attached. Oh, look at these wires holding up the skis. That's kind of cool. This is quite the view here. Yeah, I get that too when I eat a lot. That happens. How are you doing, man? Having a good evening? That's good. That's good. We are quite literally chilling here because I imagine it is quite cold outside. I actually have not found a temperature gauge in here. There's got to be one somewhere for outside temperatures. Those are voltages. Not down here. They're trying to stretch it. I was just talking earlier about how VR is even more amazing. The only downside of that is if you're not careful, you'll just bump your head into things if you're near stuff. But yeah, the free look is just... you know, I see people play this with the default cameras and without any track IR and stuff. And I mean, sure, it works, but it is such a... I mean, look, I can just look around here and, you know, have a look inside the back here, look at our cargo, lean over to the passengers, the co-pilot seat. It's just so good. So the only thing better than track IR for this is full-on virtual reality headset, which just, it doesn't stream as easily. I can do it, but the biggest challenge, honestly, when I'm doing that, I can't see the chat very well unless I bring a window into the VR thing with me, and it just makes things a lot more complicated. But when I just fly by myself, I am 80% VR now. Oh, even Microsoft likes to post comparison photos every once in a while of, you know, Flight Simulator 2020 and then all the way back to the very first Flight Simulator, and I thought the original Flight Simulator was quite cool. But it's just stunning. I showed this to my my father, who came and visited over the Christmas holidays a couple of weeks back, and he's the one that showed me Flight Simulator in the first place back in the mid 80s or something. Very pixely, like you could count the pixels by hand, and it has just come so far. It's just amazing, and it makes me I mean, that was, let's call it 30 years ago. What is this going to be like 30 years from now? It's going to be amazing. It already is amazing. I've done so much flying in the Flight Simulator here, that's incredible. I want to swing us over a little bit in the direction of our destination. We'll fly directly at a 180 southerly heading for a while. Ooh, SEAL team. That would be... Really? On a flight sim engine, huh? I think we can probably cut over some more. Just gonna try to avoid that hill there, just because I don't particularly feel like climbing. Let's see if we can shoot the gap between those two here. Right in there, that looks about right. Oh, Project IGI. For some reason, that rings a bell. I'm gonna have to look that up now. Developed by Interloop Studios and released in December 2000 by Eidos Studios. Eidos Interactive. Yeah. Yeah. I do remember that, actually. And yeah, it sure looks like a flight simulator engine. These hills are starting to look bigger as we get closer, so we'll try to get right between those there, and we'll get more or less back onto our course here. We'll fly through that inlet there. I don't want to just fly over ice, just like I don't want to just fly over water, so we'll try to keep things interesting and fly along coastlines. I remember loving those types of games back in that era. Like some of the original Ghost Recon game. Co-op with friends in college, I want to say. Joint Strike Fighter engine. Does Jane still make that? Are they still around? Probably not, hey? Rogue Spear, yes. Raven Shield. They must have all been in the very, like, right around the 2000. Jane's is, but not making games. Rogue Spear. 1999. Yep, that totally makes sense because that was 1999. I would have been in my second year of university. Also, the year where there was more video games being played than studying being done. Oh, so they make anti-air guns and stuff like that? Actual real-world weaponry? Let's go through that gap over there. That's a little bit more manageable, I think. It's a bit lower, a little safer. Yeah, the official Encyclopedia of War Machines. That sounds right. Ah, that's interesting. I didn't know that they've shifted to that. That's kind of cool. $50 to our destination. We're still more or less on track for our schedule here. More or less on target. Yeah. It's a lot easier to be an encyclopedia of anything now that we have the internet. If any, yeah. There may not be any. Oh, do they ever? Yeah, it's almost a little bit too much at times with the pushing of the IMDb Pro stuff. But I gotta imagine IMDb must have, I mean, there's costs, right? I mean, I think I use IMDb multiple times a week, just usually watching some TV show or movie, looking up something. It's usually because I see a face I recognize. I'm like, who is that guy or that lady? And I've seen them in something else. What was that? So I look up who's in this show, find all this stuff. Like it's great how that how useful that is. It's good. It's just information you don't need to remember in your actual brain because you can just look it up. Frees your brain up for more important things. Or maybe not more important, but different things. Oh man, Married with Children. Oh, that was an era. Yeah, right. Married with Children was ruined by introducing a new child? Hmm. I don't even remember that. That must have been near the end of it. Oh, I think was that her sister or that the woman? Yeah. There was this woman of the other. Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. I'm super curious. I'm just going to do this. I really want to see what happens when I move the skis down. So did they... Looks like they got lowered a bit. Good thing is it doesn't seem to impact us while we're flying. Come on. Stick my head out the window. Uh... Not even 100% sure I can tell the difference here. Hit journeying. Yes, they are definitely journeying negative lift. Alright, I'm going to switch on nav mode, so we'll let the GPS guide us in. Really, how far away is this place? For some reason I thought... Oh, it's quite a bit further than I had remembered. Okay, so I guess we are going to be flying across just snow and ice for a while. Then what games have you been playing lately then, Axeman? Same old, same old? Oh, Dark Souls 3. That is the... I have never played a Dark Souls game. I spent about 15 minutes in Bloodborne, and then never again. Angry 2K21. All angry games, huh? I feel like that's why I like Flight Sim so much, because it used to only annoy me when there were technical issues, but I've sorted them all out. So now it's all been smooth flying, and it's just, I find it so calming and relaxing. It's like my quiet time away from everything else. Wasteland 2. Any upcoming games you're excited about? Anything coming out this next month? February is supposed to be a real busy one. Ah, I figured Elden Ring. Yep. Well, if Dark Souls 3 is your game of the year for the past 6 years, then Elden Ring is probably gonna eat up a bunch of your time. Yeah, pre-ordering is one of those things. Did you get a deal, or is there anything that you get with the pre-order, or is it just yeah, I don't mind pre-ordering if it's a franchise that you really, really enjoy and you want to support, you know. I think pre-ordering something that you know is going to burn you probably not a good idea, but you know, I pre-order Destiny 2 content quite regularly, just because I feel like I'm going to get my money's worth. Like I'm not worried about it at all, and I don't mind supporting Bungie in that way. But otherwise, I generally don't pre-order. Even when there are games that have pre-order bonuses, a lot of times I'll just pre-order a couple days before. Bad Company 2. Bad Company 2 was a good game, though. Kind of. I thought I enjoyed it. Ah, the Battlefield player base. Yeah, that's a good attitude. I think if you figure you got your money's worth out of it, then you know. I only vaguely remember the tail end of Bad Company 2 and the Vietnam stuff. I used to pre-order Battlefield games for a while, and then, you know, things got kind of not so great anymore, in my opinion. Yeah, so you're describing some of the earlier years of DLC content and a lot of the growing pains that we all went through by supporting it. For the most part, DLCs have gotten better, more value, but it varies a lot. Expansion packs are great if they're, I mean, just like any DLC, as long as the content is there. Season passes really depends on whether or not, you know, if you play it on a regular basis and you kind of get use out of it, then that's great. Really all just depends on how much time you spend in a game to if it makes it worthwhile or not. I'm sure people who play Fortnite on a daily basis probably get their money's worth out of a season's pass. Destiny 2 is the only season pass I ever buy or own, and I get my money's worth. It's not nearly as many hours as some of my friends, but I still get enough out of it that I don't feel bad about having spent the money on it. And Destiny 2 expansions are typically quite good, so I'm pretty confident I'll get my money out of Witch Queen when it comes out next month. Yeah, usually they've been pretty tight-lipped about what all is coming with the Witch Queen, but they do usually give you new content, like good content. especially the expansions. The season passes, you know, they still have some stuff in there, and it really depends on what you like. I like the lore. I like the story content a lot. So there's usually the season passes are pretty light on that, but there's just enough to make it palpable. Yeah, exploring. I love trying to find secrets, stuff like that. It's one of my favorite things to do in Destiny. Some of my friends prefer they like grinding things and getting the best rolls and stuff like that, and I'm not as much into that, but you know, so they probably get on a purely hour-wise way more time out of it than I do. But yeah, I remember in Destiny 1 when you had all the ghosts to collect and stuff. They've done some of that stuff in Destiny 2, but not nearly as much. I want them to do more. They have all these cool triumphs and titles and stuff, and it's like, give me more stuff to find, more secrets to look for and hunt for. I'll do it. I'll put in the time to do that. I've never played Lord of the Rings online. Are you talking about Fallen Order? Yeah, that was actually good for exploring. They had some good mechanics around that. I finished the story of that game. I never went back to like explore more, even though I'm pretty sure there still is more stuff to do. I guess they're going to be making another one, or a few more Star Wars games coming out. So that's one of my. It was actually a really good Star Wars game. Alright, there's some mountains ahead of us there that I don't want to fly over, so we're going to fly around them, switch over to heading mode, and just veer off our track a little bit to the right. We'll just avoid them that way. Yeah, it does have a bit of a Tomb Raider vibe to it, for sure. And pretty decent as far as Star Wars story is concerned. Pretty decent. As far as Star Wars video games stories are like, anyway. Yeah, there are some, you know, again, it depends. Sometimes it's worth it to come back. Other times it's just, yeah, you want to get to that ledge now. That's right. I actually wonder if there's going to be a new Tomb Raider game at some point. I feel like it's been a couple of years now, and those have been really good as of late. I've really enjoyed them, from the ones from Square Enix. I think I know exactly what crate you're talking about. Yeah, I think that was the smart move. This is actually a light here that we can turn off. I guess we don't really need that. It's pretty bright outside. Pretty much right on track. 33 minutes to go. 81 miles to go. You should play some more of that game. It gets it continues to be entertaining throughout. I feel like I enjoyed it from beginning to end, which is rare for me these days. A lot of games they'll start off strong and then at some point they get either too repetitive or too grindy or just just don't hold my interest like they used to at the beginning. So yeah, it was a welcome surprise. I remember that when that game came out, I was not prepared. I was not expecting anything quite as good as that. So, pleasant surprised. Actually, that's true. It was. I think they mentioned Dark Souls as a bit of an inspiration, which actually initially had me scared because, like I said, I Dark Souls isn't for me. But it was sort of Dark Souls light. The combat required a little bit more intelligence than just button mashing, but it was not so bad that it became frustrating for me. I imagine most people that are really into Dark Souls probably don't see that. Batman combat, that's a pretty good analogy, actually. It is actually fairly similar to Batman. Those are, I think, I swear, I must have like at least 3 of the Batman games that I haven't played yet, that I own through various Steam sales or Epic freebies or whatever. I've got a giant library of games that I've never touched. One of these days, I'll play them all. And I keep telling myself that, but it's a lie. Never played Mad Max either, but I own it. I played the Mordor games, both of them, I think. Didn't finish them, but I enjoyed them quite a bit. I just don't have as much time to... I say that and I fly a lot. I don't have as much time for games other than Flight Simulator. And like I said, it's my happy place, so... But there are times where I go like, man, I really wish I should really play whatever this game is that I've owned for 5 years that is really, really good, and I just haven't got around to playing it. I think I played one of the Batman games had VR, right? Or had like part of it you could play in VR. Or maybe it's an entirely dedicated VR game for Batman. I don't remember, but I know I have played a few minutes of a Batman VR game where I put on the cowl, the mask, and I become Batman. And that was a cool experience in VR. The first 2 Witcher games were difficult. Not difficult in challenging, but frustration-wise, difficult. I love how these mountains are. I don't know if it's supposed to be fog, but it almost looks. It makes it look as though it's like a little bit of snow blowing in the wind. Haha, no worries, no worries. I think we're gonna just skirt those mountains there on the right-hand side. Certainly, the good thing is if we had to do an emergency landing here, we probably could. We'll just pop down the skis and we would just, there's lots and lots of flat ground. Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that. I actually flew out of Dubai yesterday in VR. and I downloaded some scenery add-ons for Dubai, and that looked so stunning. The skyscrapers, those man-made islands, it was very cool. Very cool to look at. I had to pop outside there for a second. I know it's loud, but I had to go take a screenshot of that. Yeah, I had, I was flying with real weather and it was mostly clear skies there, so I didn't have the cloud cover, but so that's interesting. So on the little nav map, which is the map on the bottom side of the screen, this looks as though we are flying over open water, which might explain why it looks like this, because it seems to be like ice cover. On my other map that I have, it makes it look as if it is solid ground, but I'm guessing it probably just cannot distinguish between, you know, what is ice and what is actual solid ground. Oh, this looks so freaking cool in satellite mode. I really wish I could get Volanta to run on the other screen. I'll move this over here for a second just to show you. This is such a cool program, and now with a 3D map view on. Yeah, so this is definitely like a frozen like glacier we can see here from the satellite view. That zooming in, you can see the open water. This is a better angle, actually better view. This is just ice cover. So we're flying to down here somewhere. This app does not actually know about the location we're flying to. I can't understand it. This is just a tiny piece of Antarctica. It's huge. Look at the massive size of this place. It's literally, well, I mean, this is obviously a flat map, so it goes around in a circle, but just crazy. Yeah, so I wish I could get this map over onto the other stream. I'm gonna have to check with somebody at Volanta again. Like, that's got to be doable. It should not be it should be doable, because I use Volanta for a lot of things. It's great for. I use it mostly for tracking my flights. Because it displays VATSIM stuff, and it displays lots of things. So I don't actually usually have the 3D mode turned on. I just have like a basic mode. But it looks a lot prettier than Little Nav Map. Though Little Nav Map is free, to be honest. Actually, Volanta is free as well, even though I don't recall if I still pay for the premium. I should probably check that. I do. Yeah, the coast. So this is actually really cool. So we are flying. The reason this is also flat is because it's just pure ice underneath us, and there's obviously some solid ground there with a little hills and then the mountains. It's actually going to be kind of difficult to land because as it is just pure white, you know, there's that concept of a whiteout. It's very difficult to judge altitude when it's just so flat. So this could be interesting. I'm also really spoiled because in VR, judging altitude and depth is so much easier. I've got about 48 miles to our destination, which is, we obviously can't see it yet, but it's probably just going to be a tiny little strip on the ground. We might actually have to use our skis if it is still on this ice, which it's hard to tell if it's going to be or not. I'm just hoping there actually is a landing strip there that we can use. Otherwise, we'll just be landing on the ice. See, this actually says we could have the prop at 75. Will that help us some with the sounds? Prop at 75, torque at 40. Okay. It doesn't really make us lose any speed, but it does quiet it down some more. That's good, actually. This is why I need to update my checklist for this airplane. I haven't completed it yet. The full power prop makes it quite a bit more noisy. We'll rev it up again when we actually go to land because we want full prop there just in case we need to react quickly. We want all the power that we can. Just going to have a quick look at Navigraph to see if that has any record of this particular airport. Does not. Great. Okay. It might actually be a made-up one. So this was from the Antarctica airport pack on flightsim.to. And it adds a bunch of new airports. And let's see. There's actually a bunch of... So they added 21 airfields in this latest one, but there are more than that even. They have a full list of these, though. Okay, AQ80. That is Fossil Bluff Skyway. Let's see if Google has anything about that. Fossil Bluff, Antarctica. It's a seasonal British aircraft refueling station located on the east coast of Alexander Island in Antarctica. In operation since 1961, its facilities provide fuel, storage, and ancillary support for British exploration operations during the summer season, October through March. It's actually fitting because we are flying now in January, so that is technically the summer season for Antarctica. We are flying a British Antarctica Survey airplane, so it would absolutely be appropriate for us to land there to resupply them, provide new supplies, and whatever this was, some sort of components and lab equipment. There's a 1,200-meter unprepared snow runway, or skiway. All right, so we're going to be using skis, boys. And a small team provides weather forecasting information for flight safety. The Twin Otter ferried drums of fuel from Rothera to Fossil Bluff each summer. That's exactly what we're doing. We're flying, I mean, we don't have drums of fuel, but we're flying from Rothera. I don't know how to pronounce this stupid research station's name, but from Rothera to Fossil Bluff. And there is a hut there, so that's probably the extent of it. It looks like it will be a couple of houses, sorry, a hut that houses 4 people in comfort and forms a transit station for summer field parties. It's about a 90-minute flying time from Rothera, which is about right. We've been flying a bit longer. It'll be more like a 2-hour flight for us, but we're not flying at full speed and not at the correct altitude for this kind of trip. We're just sightseeing and taking our time. But this is a very realistic type of flight that would be taking place with this aircraft at this time of the year along this route. So So that's actually exciting. I like doing flights that are realistic flights as much as sometimes it's fun to just goof around, but I tend to do things fairly seriously. And in this 29 miles, there's something over there that doesn't seem to be quite on our track, though. No, we should be flying directly towards it, so I don't think it's that over there. And by that over there, I mean, you can't really see what this looks like, a bit of a straight strip, but that's not the direction we're flying in. So I'm guessing our destination is probably closer to over there. It might be very difficult to see, actually, if it is just a skiway and a single hut. Probably a windsock if we're lucky. Maybe some polar bears. Oh, that seems doubtful. The graphics just all changed anyway, so what I was looking at is not quite there anymore, so... So unfortunately, I've got no idea. I know it's a 1,200-meter runway, which is a decent length. I just don't have any idea as to what its orientation is. It would be nice to have some idea of the runway heading so that I can plan our approach. But as it stands, it's going to be full-on visual. We're going to, as soon as we see it, we will disengage the autopilot and we'll fly in whatever direction we need to fly to try to get into a reasonable landing pattern here. We don't really have to contend with wind, so it doesn't really matter which direction we land in. We'll just take whatever is most convenient. It should be on, it said it's on the east coast of Alexander Island, which is, so this land, this solid land is Alexander Island. This ice is technically not really solid land, it's ice. So it is on solid ground at least, so it would be just on the edge, probably straight ahead there. We are getting closer and closer. They're only 20 miles away now, so we should start seeing something soon. I have to keep an eye out here. I mean, judging by the coastline and how these mountains are situated, I feel like the runway is probably in a direction that we are headed in. Actually, it could be, yeah, because going, anything that we'd be getting perpendicular seems to go into the mountains, which does not really make a lot of sense, but who knows. 19 miles now. Let's actually see if we can get the autopilot to take us down to... See if we can get it to take us down. I don't actually see where the what am I talking about? The vertical speed indicator. I know I'm setting it, but I actually don't see, and it is doing it more or less depending on what I'm doing here, but I don't actually see where I'm telling, like where's their indicator for what vertical speed I'm commanding for the autopilot? I don't see that anywhere. I guess I just have to do it by just play it by ear. Not play it by ear, but just kind of gauge it as much as I can. So we'll get the autopilot to take us down to 3,000. Hello, Fly Money 242. Thank you for the follow. Joining us just in time to see if we can spot this runway here that we're going to be landing on somewhere. We'll get the... Go ahead and we'll get the skis into the down position just so that I don't have to think about that later. That's 4,000. 14 miles to go. Okay, so it's got to be... I'm thinking it's whatever this is over here, so it might actually be at an offset angle to us. VS dial just need an altitude dial. I have the altitude dial. That I can actually see. Like, I can see down here 3,000 feet and vertical speed mode. I just can't see what vertical speed I've actually told it. I can see the difference. I mean, I'm basically just looking at the actual vertical speed indicator and adjusting it based on that. It's slowing down now, of course, but I was looking for a place that actually said, like, you know, 500 feet per minute, 600 feet. I can actually see it on my just under... Like, I can see it on my Logitech panel that I had it set to 1,000 feet. Under the altitude dial. Yeah, that's the indicator. That's the vertical speed we're actually doing. I was looking for the place where, like, the vertical speed I am telling the autopilot to go at. I don't know where that is displayed in this aircraft, but... I may also be completely blind and be missing point that you're making entirely, in which case I apologize. I'm just not seeing it right now. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that is the airport over there, so let's see. We'll continue going down a bit more. See, I know that I have just set vertical speed to minus 500 feet per minute, because I can see that on my Logitech autopilot panel. But I cannot actually see this in here. I'm going to switch over to heading mode as well, and because I think it kind of looks... Actually, here, we'll leave it. Kind of looks like the runway runs at about... What is that? Maybe 210 degrees. Yeah, I kind of, this is my first time really flying it. I took it out for a quick test spin yesterday just to make sure that I knew how to get this thing off the ground, but I mean, it literally may just not have an indicator other than, you know, you just move it until you get to the desired vertical speed. We should throttle back here a bit because we're going pretty fast and we'll have to slow down here anyway. So 6 miles, I'm guessing that must be, well, that doesn't look like much of a runway, but I'm guessing that is all we're getting. There are some weird scenery pieces over here that just keep changing. All right. Oh, this does actually have like a really weird approach into it. So is it off on the right then? It might be around this corner. Just judging by my GPS thing here. So I am actually going to switch it over to heading mode because I don't want it to fly like a weird thing over. But I wonder if this, I think it's going to be around this hill. Yeah, underneath that, this is just the, that's the radio. This is actually for the transponder. I don't actually have it on. So there's the transponder. I guess I should probably turn it on. you know, squawk 7000 and altitude reporting on. Hey, Retheus. Yeah, this is amazing that it's on Game Pass. It's definitely a good use of Game Pass. I really don't know where this this runway's supposed to be. Like, judging by this, it is directly beside us. It might be around this hill. You just want to fly over and then uninstall it? I mean, yeah, I guess that's doable. Okay, so actually this does have us flying a very interesting loop and then over there. You know what? Let's follow the GPS. Let's trust the GPS and see where we end up. Let's get some flaps going here too while we're at it. It's 20% of your storage, eh? I don't know. I mean, for that's nothing wrong with that as far as I'm concerned. I really have no idea where this runway is. It's got to be in between there. This plane, less so than an airliner, to be quite honest. I feel more equipped to do that in a larger airliner than this one. I don't have very much experience in this plane yet. My biggest challenge, honestly, with this plane now is that I don't know. I don't know where we're going. Because I feel like it's taken us into the side of a mountain, which is not really... Oh, is it in there? Okay, it's got to be in that gap. No, I could do it. Oh, oh, it's down there. I see it. That's it. There are, right here, there are like 3 little orange things on the ground. That is the runway. Okay. We're going to have to make another loop here because we are obviously still too high. So we can't quite dive bomb down there. That's it. Okay. All right. Well, now that we've seen it, we'll know where to go. Right there. Tiny little... I really hope that there is going to be that hut there. And just as I predicted, it is quite difficult here to tell altitude because everything is just flat and white. I don't really have any idea of what elevation this is going to be at, so we just have to eyeball it. I don't know why the terrain is flickering all weirdly here either, so that's not terribly confidence inspiring. Let's see, what are we at? 1,300 feet. I feel like we're probably low enough and we're descending at a decent clip here that if we turn around back towards it, and I do have the GPS needle there as a bit of a guide. There's our shadow. That will also help us gauge our altitude. We're definitely getting low. Some holes in the ground. Okay, there we go. I've got the runway in sight, if you can even call it a runway. I'm gonna go full flaps. We have some indicator here of our altitude, so that's good. 500, so that we have an actual absolute altitude, so we're at 400 now, which is probably lower than we want to be. Good thing is we don't really need to be exactly on the runway because it's all just ice anyway. We got the skis out, supposedly anyway. I feel like it didn't actually visually change anything, but the ski position is down, which is good. I can no longer see the little orange cone or something. Oh, there they are. That's got to be representative of our runway here somehow. So we're about 200 above ground level. I'm just gonna aim to land in between these orange oh, there, nope, there's actual lights there. Okay. Okay, there we go. Now we got something to shoot for here. Oh, we're off track here a bit. Well, I don't know why the right engine has gone way further into reverse than the left one. But, so we kind of missed the runway. It's over there. But runway is kind of a relative saying anyway. It's not much of a runway. It's definitely difficult to steer with the skis down. I wonder if I move those back up, if that's going to have much of an impact. Is it gonna? Yeah. Okay. That's better. Okay, so this is a fairly terrible landing, but we found it in the middle of nowhere, so pretty happy with that. We're going to taxi over to the Fossil Bluff hut because nobody wants to lug this giant box of equipment that we have in the back over there, so we'll try to taxi our way over there before we call it a night here. 5 minutes over, I think, but we're okay. We'll park her up right over there by by these storage containers, by these houses, really. Hey, I see a human being. This looks good. There's even British flag and everything there. Solar panel, maybe? Let's bring the props back. Set the parking brake. There we go. We made it. Look at this place. Oops. Looks like this, they were waiting for us. I think this is a wonderful place. There is a... What is that, a jet ski? Is it actually somebody on a dog sled over there? No, it's a little jet ski coming by. That is so cool, like these little details. I know we're over the time here, but we'll leave it right here with this view, this wonderful view, landed down here, Fossil Bluffs in Antarctica. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget shacknews.com for all the latest news, the best guides, and every bits of details and information you need to know about video games. And also shackpets.com. Is it .com? Shackpets on the App Store and Google Play. Great place to let your pets battle it out. Check it out. I will see you again next week, probably for some more Shack Air flights. And we'll see where we go next week. I'm thinking we'll take the Kodiak to Mount Everest, because that sounds like a fun thing to do. Thanks a lot for tuning in, guys. Catch you all later.